Welcome to 21st Century Dating Decoded. We're making modern love simple. Get ready to decode your love life. Brought to you by Speed Mingle.
I want you to picture something right now. It is your typical Friday night.
Right, we've all been there.
Exactly. You are sitting on the couch, just completely and utterly exhausted from the work week. And, the television is glowing with something you aren't actually watching.
Because you're staring down at your phone.
Yes. You are trapped in that endless, totally numbing dating app dopamine loop. I mean, you swipe left, you swipe right.
Just muscle memory at that point.
Right. You're looking at these heavily filtered photos, trying to decode generic quotes from sitcoms on people's profiles, and suddenly it hits you. You realize you feel less like a human being and, well, more like a commodity sitting on a digital shelf.
It really is a profound state of cognitive and emotional fatigue. I mean, you are essentially trying to synthesize a human soul from a two-dimensional grid of pixels and quirky prompt answers.
Which is impossible.
Totally. And biologically speaking, your brain is just not wired to evaluate potential partners in that kind of hyper-accelerated high-volume vacuum. It's exhausting.
It really is exhausting. So eventually you hit a breaking point. You toss the phone onto the couch cushion and you just say, I am done with the apps. I have to get out there and meet people in real life.
A very natural reaction.
And here's the catch. The moment you actually look at your real-world options, you realize the physical landscape has completely mutated while you were busy swiping.
Oh, it really has.
And that is exactly what we are charting today on this deep dive. We are looking at a massive seismic shift in how singles are meeting right now across Florida's Treasure Coast and the Space Coast, all the way down through Palm Beach.
Yeah, the apps are out, real life is back in, but the real world has gotten, very complicated.
To put it mildly.
We are witnessing a fascinating sociological shift in real time. I mean, we are watching an entire demographic try to migrate away from an era defined by mass volume and algorithmic sorting.
Right.
And they're moving toward an era that desperately demands curated, intentional quality. But, that transition has been incredibly bumpy.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are going to explore why the traditional kind of legacy style of speed dating is dying a very slow, painful death.
For good reason.
Oh, for sure. We're also going to look at how the local market wildly overcorrected into sheer chaos. And ultimately, we are going to explain exactly why, if you are a single person on the Treasure Coast, you absolutely need to circle Wednesday, July 28th on your calendar.
Yes, for the Sip and Sizzle Speed Mingle.
Exactly. The Sip and Sizzle Speed Mingle at the Vine and Barley in Port St. Lucie at 6:45 p.m.
But, to understand why a specific event like that represents a genuine evolution, we really have to look at the foundational layer it's trying to replace.
The old guard.
Right. We have to look at the establishment.
The dreaded legacy singles events. I mean, you decide to get off the apps, you buy a ticket to a local speed dating night, and instead of a romantic, serendipitous evening, you feel like you just stepped onto an industrial conveyor belt.
It's very mechanical. And the mechanics of these traditional events were established, over 2 decades ago. And they have remained stubbornly unchanged.
It's crazy how little they've adapted.
If you look at the industry titans and the research we have, companies like Predating, they boast some staggering numbers. They have been operating since 2001.
2001? That's a lifetime ago in dating years.
It really is. And they claim to have hosted over 38,000 events.
Wow.
Yeah, facilitating millions of these mini-dates with over 112,200 total attendees.
That volume is just mind-blowing. And they share the space with other major players, like Date Faster and Sips and Sparks. And they're running the exact same playbook across the entire state.
And they get highly specific with their demographics, too.
Right. You have events like the Delray Jewish Speed Dating for singles in their 40s and 50s. And that's hosted at the WXYZ bar at the Aloft Hotel.
Or you see Date Faster events targeting 24 to 39-year-olds in Boynton Beach. The marketing is incredibly targeted.
The marketing is precise, yes, but the operational mechanics are universally rigid. Just think about the structure for a second. You arrive, you are promised introductions to anywhere from 5 to 12 potential matches, and you are placed on a strict timer.
Very strict.
Each interaction lasts exactly 3 to 6 minutes.
And there is a literal loud buzzer, or sometimes a bell that rings like a fire alarm when your time is up.
It's so jarring, and to compound the pressure, you are equipped with this this physical scorecard or a clipboard to check off friend, date, or none for every single interaction.
It is the DMV of dating.
The DMV of dating, exactly. Just think about the physical environment for a second. You are usually corralled into a brightly lit hotel conference room.
Or maybe the overflow dining section of a P.F. Chang's.
Yes, the fluorescent lighting is harsh. You are literally taking a number, sitting in a hard chair, waiting for a bell, answering highly bureaucratic questions and checking boxes on a form. I mean, it breeds this very specific, simmering anxiety.
It creates a state of acute psychological distress, actually. When you only have 180 seconds to evaluate a potential partner, the brain just panics.
180 seconds is nothing.
It's nothing. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, it starts firing because you are under an artificial time threat. This forces the brain to default to what we call cognitive fatigue.
Right.
To manage the anxiety of that ticking clock, people immediately fall back on a heavily rehearsed, safe script.
Resume check. It's always, what do you do for a living? Where are you from? How is the traffic on I-95 getting here?
Precisely. You aren't actually learning who someone is. You are evaluating how well they pitch themselves under the stress of a stopwatch.
Which tells you nothing about real chemistry.
No, it doesn't. The underlying biology of romance requires safety and relaxation to spark. But this setup turns human connection into a high-stakes mini-job interview. And repeating that exact same script 12 times in an hour completely numbs your emotional receptors.
You know, it reminds me of an X-ray machine.
How so?
Well, an X-ray is incredible for finding a broken bone, right? It's binary. The hard tissue shows up clear as day. It's either broken or not broken. But if you try to use an X-ray to diagnose, like a torn muscle or complex nerve damage, you just get a cloudy, useless image. The tool does not fit the tissue.
That's a great analogy.
The organizers of these legacy events act like human chemistry can be X-rayed. They think if you just put two people in a brightly lit room with a clipboard, the clear picture of compatibility will magically appear.
But applying a clinical diagnostic tool to something as nuanced as romantic chemistry just yields absolute static. It's completely unnatural.
It is. It's so unnatural.
The tool does not fit the tissue. But, we do have to ask why this model dominated the industry for a quarter of a century. It didn't just emerge in a vacuum.
That's true.
Back in 2001, when this architecture was finalized, online dating carried a massive social stigma. Meeting strangers from the internet was perceived as inherently risky, both physically and socially.
Oh, yeah. You definitely didn't want to admit you met someone online back then. You told your friends you bumped into each other at a coffee shop or something.
Exactly. So the DMV model provided a deeply necessary psychological buffer.
Right.
The strict rules, the tables physically separating you, the clipboards, they all offered safety. If you sit down across from someone and immediately realize it is a terrible match, you do not have to formulate a polite, awkward exit strategy. The bell rescues you.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. The bell is an escape hatch.
It is. You are insulated from direct, face-to-face rejection because all the evaluations are secretly logged on paper and processed by a third party a day later.
Okay, I can see the utility in that protection for the early 2000s. But if it is so exhausting today, if everyone knows it feels like a clinical interrogation, why do people still put themselves through this DMV grinder?
It's a good question.
Because we see these events still happening constantly in places like Cocoa Beach at Beachfly Brewing Company or the Sips and Sparks event out in Wellington at Aglio-Olio. Why are modern singles still enduring the clipboard?
Well, simply because the pain of the dating apps has become so acute. People are willing to endure the sterile bureaucracy just for the absolute guarantee of actual physical proximity to other humans.
Wow.
Yeah, they are trading digital exhaustion for analog exhaustion.
Yeah.
However, human nature guarantees that if you trap people in a boring, restrictive environment for long enough, a chaotic rebellion is going to break out.
And wow, did the market ever rebel? I mean, we are looking at a local ecosystem that swung from rigid boredom to just unhinged extremes.
They really did.
If the DMV model is about hiding behind a scorecard, the new trend is about turning romance into a gladiator arena.
The stage shows. This is where the sociological analysis gets incredibly rich because the behavior is just so extreme.
Oh, it's wild. I am still trying to wrap my head around the itinerary for Pop the Balloon Live, happening at the Flair House in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, that one is intense.
The marketing explicitly demands that attendees arrive camera ready.
Yeah.
I mean, you are not going on a quiet date. You are participating in a fast-paced, high-energy pauper pass spectacle.
It fundamentally alters the social contract of dating.
Yeah.
You are no longer engaging in a private exploration of mutual interest. You are explicitly providing content for a live audience. You are a performer first and a dater second.
And it gets even more intense with the LOL Love Connection event at Dirty South in Stewart.
All right.
They literally pull two singles up on a stage for a 5-minute live date.
In front of everyone.
Yes. And the date is hosted by two comedians, Ryan Panucci and Shannon Lalim, who actively interrupt the date to ask quirky, spicy questions.
It's so high pressure.
And the grand finale, 50 locals in the crowd vote by applause to determine match or no match.
This raises a really important question about the psychological profiles these events attract. Because these stage shows essentially weaponize awkwardness. They transform romance into a reality TV audition.
Think about the pressure. You are sweating under stage lights in Stewart, trying to be witty and charming while two professional comedians roast you, and a crowd of strangers is literally judging your chemistry out loud.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No. It heavily favors extreme extroverts and people who just thrive on performative panic. If you are a thoughtful, quiet, or highly analytical person, you would be eaten alive up there.
You absolutely would. But we have to look past the stage to understand the actual utility of these shows.
Okay, what is the utility? Because it sounds like a nightmare.
The secret is that the real matchmaking isn't necessarily happening under the spotlight.
What do you mean? Where is it happening?
In the crowd. Think about the audience dynamics. When a crowd collectively witnesses a high-stakes, mildly traumatic social event like watching two strangers bomb a date on stage, it creates an instant shared parasocial bond.
Oh, like surviving a train wreck together.
Exactly. A parasocial bond often forms when people experience a one-sided relationship with a performer. But here, the audience bonds with each other over the shared spectacle.
That makes so much sense.
The anxiety of watching the performance provides an incredibly easy, universal icebreaker for the people mingling in the margins of the room.
Yeah.
You don't need a clever opening line. You don't need to ask about the traffic on I-95. You just turn to the person next to you and say, "Can you believe what he just said to her?"
That is surprisingly brilliant. You use the gladiators on stage as conversational fodder to skip the small talk entirely.
Exactly.
But, what if you hate the loud, alcohol-fueled comedy club vibe entirely? The market swung to the complete opposite extreme, too. It went from a public free-for-all to an intimate free-fall.
You're referring to the conscious connection events, specifically the Tantra Speed Date.
Yes. We looked at the Tantra Speed Date operating out of Dancing Lion in Delray Beach. First of all, the organizers boast a staggering 94.09% connection rate.
Which is an incredibly specific and high number.
It is. They are so confident in their method that tickets run up to $150 at the door. And they offer a guarantee if you don't connect, your next ticket is free, but the structure of the event is just wild.
It is the absolute antithesis of the DMV model.
Yep.
The DMV model relies entirely on verbal resumes. The Tantra model operates on the premise that verbal communication is actually the primary obstacle to genuine connection.
Yeah.
They believe words are just the armor we use to hide our true selves, so they eliminate them.
Right. They arrange the daters in concentric circles, and no small talk is allowed at all.
None.
Instead, trained facilitators guide you through partner yoga, synchronized movement, guided breathing exercises, and prolonged, uninterrupted eye-gazing with complete strangers.
Sociologically, this demands immediate ego dissolution.
Ego dissolution.
Yeah, ego dissolution is essentially stripping away the defensive personality you use to navigate your daily workday. You are being asked to drop every single social defense mechanism you possess and engage in profound physical and emotional vulnerability within minutes of walking through the door.
Wow.
The structure is entirely somatic, meaning it is based on the physical body rather than bureaucratic.
But I have to challenge the reality of this, though. I mean, isn't jumping straight into partner yoga and deep soul staring with a total stranger forcing a false sense of intimacy?
It's certainly aggressive.
Right. You are entirely sober, in a room full of people you do not know, and you are expected to drop all your emotional walls instantly. It feels like jumping out of a plane without a parachute and just hoping you figure out how to weave one before you hit the ground.
It is a massive leap of faith. And your skepticism is totally valid. It can manufacture a sense of intimacy that is purely physiological.
Just hormones, basically.
Exactly.
Like-
When you stare into someone's eyes and sync your breathing, your body releases a huge rush of oxytocin and adrenaline. That chemical cocktail can feel exactly like love, but it may not actually translate into long-term psychological or lifestyle compatibility at all.
Right, because you haven't even spoken to them yet.
Exactly. However, the fact that people are eagerly paying $150 for this experience speaks volumes to how desperate they are to escape the superficiality of the dating apps and the clipboards.
And, of course, if you have significant financial means, you can bypass all of this trauma completely. We saw that with the high rollers using premium matchmakers like Revolution Dating on the Treasure Coast.
Yes, that's a whole different tier.
They just pay a professional to outsource the entire cognitive load of dating.
That represents the ultimate privatization of romance. You pay a consultant to act as your filter, entirely avoiding the stages, the clipboards, and the yoga mats.
But the vast majority of people cannot afford a private matchmaker, and they do not want to be voted on by a comedy club audience in Stewart, and they do not want to stare silently into a stranger's eyes in Del Rey.
No, they don't.
They just want a normal, sophisticated evening out.
Which brings us to a massive void in the market. Normal adults just want a low-pressure craft beer and a good conversation.
And this is where the industry has historically struggled the most. If you remove the clipboards of the DMV model and the stages of the comedy clubs and the guided yoga of the Tantra events, what structure are you left with? You're left with the pure, unstructured mixer. We looked at events like the Single Professionals Network mixer at Cucina on Palm Beach Island.
Right.
And it sounds amazing in theory. The marketing promises you can sip a cocktail, escape to timeless elegance, and move effortlessly through a room of accomplished singles.
But the fatal flaw of the pure mixer is that it possesses zero structure. It relies 100% on a participant's inherent social courage to initiate the cold approach.
It is an extrovert's dream scenario. If you can naturally command a room and confidently walk up to groups of strangers, you will thrive at Cucina.
Definitely.
But if you are even slightly introverted, or honestly just having a low-energy day, a pure mixer is a psychological nightmare.
It really is.
You end up as a wallflower, nursing a single drink, clinging to the perimeter of the room, desperately hoping someone initiates a conversation with you so you don't look out of place.
Without any structural scaffolding, the anxiety of the cold approach paralyzes a significant portion of the attendees.
It does.
What's fascinating here is how this gap led to the rise of activity-based groups trying to fill this middle ground. We examined the Singles Want to Have Fun meetup group in Jupiter, which specifically targets the over 50 demographic.
Their approach is entirely different from a cocktail mixer. They remove the pressure of the cold approach by focusing on a shared activity. In their case, organizing a group to attend a local theater production, followed by grabbing pizza.
Right. And what is clever here is how they use the shared external experience to act as a natural, low-pressure filter. If you are sitting next to someone watching a play, your eyes are forward.
You aren't staring them down.
Exactly. You aren't staring each other down across a small table evaluating a resume. The stakes are lowered. You evaluate their natural reactions to the play, their sense of humor, their general presence in a low-stakes environment.
It is deeply organic. But the problem is it's a slow burn. If you are a busy professional in your 30s or 40s, you might not have the time to attend 6 different theater productions over 3 months, just hoping you casually bump into the right person over a slice of pepperoni.
It takes a lot of patience.
Right. You want the guaranteed introductions of the DMV model, but you absolutely refuse to sacrifice the organic, relaxed vibe of the theater group.
That specific, profound market gap is exactly what has birthed the antidote we mentioned at the start of our deep dive.
Yes. Having established the soul-crushing flaws of the clipboards, the absolute terror of the stage shows, and the aimlessness of the pure mixers, we have finally arrived at the synthesis, the event that actually solves the equation for singles on the Treasure Coast.
We are talking about the Sip and Sizzle Speed Mingle.
Wednesday, July 28th, the Vine and Barley in Port St. Lucie. The event runs from 6:45 p.m. to 9:00 p.m. This is the case study for how to fix modern dating. Let's break down exactly what they have built here, starting with the physical environment.
The environment is highly intentional. They've completely rejected the brightly lit hotel conference rooms in favor of a wine and craft beer lounge with a breezy, string-lit outdoor patio.
It sounds so much better already.
The dress code is listed as summer chic. They are actively architecting a vibe that balances casual comfort with upscale mingling, signaling to your brain that you are at a social gathering, not an evaluation center.
It feels like a hosted cocktail hour with your friends. But the real brilliance is in the precise timeline. They do not just throw you into the deep end the second you walk in the door.
No, they don't.
The event is broken into 3 distinct phases. Phase 1, from 6:45 p.m. to 7:15 p.m., is the pregame and warm-up.
That 30-minute window is a monumental psychological shift from the legacy events. In traditional speed dating, you walk in and are almost immediately forced into the timer.
You barely have time to take your coat off.
Right. By enforcing a 30-minute pregame, Sip and Sizzle allows the participant's nervous system to biologically acclimate. If you just rush through traffic on your way from a stressful workday, your cortisol levels are elevated.
Oh, massively elevated.
Giving you 30 minutes to get a craft beer, learn the layout of the room, adjust to the ambient noise level, and just breathe allows that cortisol to naturally drop before any actual dating begins.
It's a physiological reset. Then, from 7:15 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., you enter phase 2, the fast-track connections. This is where they retain the one redeeming quality of traditional speed dating, the guaranteed efficiency.
Yes.
You engage in a series of mini dates, but they are shorter, just 4 to 5 minutes each.
They recognize that 4 to 5 minutes is the exact optimal window to determine a baseline vibe. It is enough time to see if a spark exists without trapping someone in an agonizingly long conversation, if the chemistry clearly isn't there.
But the element that shatters the old model completely is phase 3. From 8:30 p.m. to 9:00 p.m., they host the after party.
We really cannot overstate how crucial this phase is to the ecosystem of the event. Contrast this with the traditional DMV model. In the old system, the final bell rings. The organizer yells that the night is over, and everyone immediately engages in what we call the parking lot shuffle.
Ah, the worst.
You walk out to your cars in near silence, avoiding eye contact, desperately hoping you match with someone on a piece of paper that will be tallied tomorrow.
It brutally severs any organic momentum. I mean, let's say you were having an amazing conversation in round 3. You were laughing, the chemistry was palpable, but then the bell rang.
Right.
In the old model, you just have to walk away, cross your fingers, and pray to the algorithm that they also checked yes on their clipboard.
But the after party at Sip and Sizzle keeps the floor open. It provides the participants with the agency to immediately capitalize on that organic momentum.
It's so smart.
If you felt a spark during round 3, you do not have to wait for an email the next day. The pressure of the rounds is over, the music is playing, and you can simply walk up to them at the bar and continue the conversation. It beautifully blends the forced efficiency of structure with the reward of natural courage.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Sip and Sizzle explicitly refuses to even call itself a dating event. In all their marketing materials, they rebrand the evening as an IRL social networking event.
That is a masterclass in behavioral psychology. By refusing the label of a dating event, they instantly lower the atmospheric pressure of the entire room. High stakes breed anxiety, and anxiety eventually morphs into desperation.
Nobody wants to seem desperate.
Exactly. By calling it social networking, they camouflage the pressure. It gives people permission to just exist in the space without the heavy expectation of finding a soulmate by 9:00 p.m.
Which brings up a vital question about the actual execution. I mean, you have the perfect venue, you have the perfect timeline, you have lowered the pressure by calling it networking. But what actually happens when you sit down across from a stranger during those fast-track rounds?
That's the real test.
How does Sip and Sizzle prevent that toxic loop of small talk and the dreaded "what do you do for work" resume dump?
They utilize a highly effective cognitive tool. On every single table, they require the use of a specific icebreaker called 52+2, the card game.
Okay, explain the psychology behind this, because I want to know why small talk is so toxic to romance in the first place.
Well, when you sit down with a stranger, your nervous system is mildly panicking, as we discussed. Under high anxiety, human brains are hardwired to seek the path of least cognitive resistance to conserve energy.
Right.
It is much safer and requires far less mental bandwidth for your brain to ask, "How is traffic on I-95?" than it is to ask a vulnerable question like, "What are you most passionate about?" Small talk is a defensive shield.
But generates zero chemistry. You can't fall in love over a conversation about a traffic jam.
Exactly. The 52+2 cards act as a cognitive scaffold. By forcing participants to draw a card and answer a specific thought-provoking prompt, the organizers provide the conversational energy for you.
You don't have to work as hard.
You don't have to scramble to think of a clever question, you just read and react. It bypasses the resume dump entirely, giving daters permission to immediately reveal authentic passions and perspectives without having to bear the anxiety of steering the conversation themselves.
It is like having a conversational wingman sitting at every table. But the cards are just the micro-level hack for the individual dates. The macro-level hack is how they handle the intentions of the participants. When you register for Sip and Sizzle, you don't just buy a generic ticket. You have to select from the 4 pillars of connection, which they also call their deal-breaker categories.
This is how they honor the fact that human connection is not monolithic. People go to events for different reasons. The 4 pillars are explicitly defined at registration.
Let's hear them.
Pillar 1 is networking and professional ascent. Pillar 2 is friendship and social synergy. Pillar 3 is dating, romance, and real chemistry. And Pillar 4 is casual fun and spontaneous adult play.
So by explicitly allowing people to attend just to find a workout buddy under Pillar 2 or a graphic designer for their startup under Pillar 1, they extract the desperation from the air. But I need to present a challenging scenario here because this sounds like it could go wrong.
Please do.
Let's say I pay my registration fee. I put on my best summer chic outfit. I drive out to the Vine and Barley in Port St. Lucie because I am genuinely looking for a serious romantic relationship. I selected Pillar 3, romance.
Okay, following so far.
I sit down at the table, the bell rings, and I start talking to the person sitting across from me. What if they selected Pillar 1 because they are just trying to network and find a new accountant? We're fundamentally misaligned. Isn't that a catastrophic waste of my 4 minutes?
It would be if the seating arrangement were random. But this is where the underlying digital architecture of Speed Mingle proves its worth. The algorithm dictates that you are only paired for mini dates with individuals seeking the exact same type of connection.
Wait, really? So it filters it beforehand?
Yes. The system actively filters out misaligned intentions before you ever take a seat. If you selected Pillar 3 for romance, the algorithm ensures that every single person sitting across from you during the fast track rounds is also explicitly there for romance.
Oh.
It completely removes the friction and the ambiguity of wondering, is this person actually looking to date, or are they just trying to sell me real estate?
Okay, that changes everything. You get the relaxed, open vibe of a broad social mixer, but you retain the highly curated efficiency of a dedicated dating event. It really is the best of both worlds. And the way they execute that filtering leads perfectly into how they handle participant data, which is a massive point of anxiety for modern singles.
Privacy is arguably the most valuable currency in the modern digital landscape. We are so accustomed to dating apps commodifying our demographics, selling our age, our location, our swiping habits, and our preferences to third-party advertisers.
Even traditional real-world singles events do this. If you look at Sips and Sparks or Date Faster, they use demographics as heavy marketing leverage. They will broadcast, come meet singles ages 24 to 39, or they will advertise the exact racial or religious makeup of an event to sell more tickets. People are exhausted by feeling like their personal identity is the product on display.
Sip and Sizzle approaches this entirely differently. They utilize a proprietary web app called SmartSync to handle all the back-end matching. And their demographic privacy policy is militant.
Militant how?
They absolutely refuse to disclose headcounts, age ranges, gender identities, or racial backgrounds before or after the event.
So how does the SmartSync app actually match people if it isn't harvesting all that demographic data?
It relies on the intentionality we just discussed, the 4 pillars, and immediate mutual post-date feedback, rather than race or age filters. They create a walled, unbiased garden.
That's incredibly refreshing.
You submit your matches quietly and digitally via the SmartSync app during or after the event. And if there is mutual interest, you receive your matches within 24 hours. There are no paper forms left on tables under fluorescent lights, no data mining by the organizers, and no public rejection.
It is incredibly respectful of the user. Now, we step back and look at what Speed Mingle has built. They have optimized what you might call the acquisition phase of connection. They have built the perfect low-friction environment to spark a flame. But, and we all know this finding a match is only half the battle, a spark is not a fire.
That is a crucial distinction. The ecosystem of human connection requires infrastructure for the maintenance phase as well. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is one thing to meet someone. It is entirely another to sustain that connection through the realities of daily life.
It really is.
And our sources provided a very detailed look at this exact concept with the Stewart Scavenger Hunt for Couples.
This event fascinated me. It is a date night event operating in downtown Stewart, designed specifically for couples who are already together. It is based around the concept of the 10 love styles, but they weave in these complex challenges centered around wellness, empowerment, and critically financial communication.
It proves that a community infrastructure exists on the Treasure Coast to actively fortify connections against the friction of the real world. Why is financial communication a focus of a romantic scavenger hunt? Because financial incompatibility and poor communication about money are among the leading causes of relationship dissolution.
Makes total sense.
By gamifying financial communication in a scavenger hunt setting, they are providing couples with a safe, structured environment to stress test their relationship.
It's like the final boss level of dating. Just think about the progression. You survive the chaotic dopamine loop of the apps. You upgrade your strategy and attend the sip and sizzle speed mingle. You find your person using the smart sync algorithm and the 4 pillars. And a year later, you are running around downtown Stewart doing a scavenger hunt to align your financial philosophies and deepen your bond.
It's brilliant.
It is a complete, fully realized ecosystem for love.
It is a remarkable evolution from the sterile clipboards and 3-minute interrogations of the early 2000s. It acknowledges that human connection requires both an elegant beginning and deliberate maintenance.
Let's summarize this incredible journey for our listeners. We started by looking at the soul-crushing DMV of dating, the brightly lit hotel rooms, the repetitive resume questions, and the sheer cognitive fatigue of trying to X-ray chemistry with a clipboard.
We then observed the wild, chaotic overcorrections that naturally followed. We analyzed the performative panic of the stage shows in West Palm Beach, where romance becomes a spectator sport.
Right.
And we explored the intense, immediate vulnerability of the Tantra circles in Delray Beach, where words are abandoned entirely.
And we explored the aimless void of the unstructured mixers. All of this culminated in the highly optimized, curated synthesis of the Sip and Sizzle Speed Mingle, Wednesday, July 28th at the Vine and Barley in Port St. Lucie, an event that uses 52 plus 2 cards to bypass small talk, 4 pillars to perfectly align intentions, a 30-minute pregame to lower cortisol, an after-party to capture organic momentum, and the SmartSync app to fiercely protect your privacy.
It is a comprehensive systemic cure for modern dating fatigue. It addresses the biological, sociological, and psychological hurdles of meeting someone new.
So, to you, the listener, if you are sitting on that couch, exhausted by the digital grind, your time and your emotional bandwidth are your most precious economic assets. Stop giving them away to an algorithm that views you as a data point. Ditch the apps. Ditch the rigid clipboards. Choose environments that actually respect your time, protect your privacy, and align with your true relational goals.
The infrastructure is there on the Treasure Coast. You just have to make the decision to step into it.
So what does this all mean for you? I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you plan your week. We spend our lives obsessively curating our digital profiles. We filter our photos, we edit our bios, we desperately try to digitally scrub away all of our flaws so we appear perfect on a screen. But an event like Sip and Sizzle argues the exact opposite. It argues that you, in all your messy, unscripted, real-life reality, are far more compelling in person than any digitally filtered picture could ever be.
It is a beautiful and very human premise.
But it raises a profound question in our relentless pursuit of the perfect, friction-free, algorithmically matched connection using tools like SmartSync and 4 pillars and guided icebreakers to guarantee efficiency. Are we truly mastering human intimacy? Or are we slowly engineering the beautiful, messy serendipity of romance completely out of existence? We want the guarantee, but we crave the magic. So maybe it's time to put down the phone, step away from the static of the romantic X-ray machine, and just see what happens when you draw a card in real life.
Thank you for listening
and watching on the new Speed Mingle TV network.